Joe Rogan is one of the most recognizable voices in the UFC. His energetic commentary, insightful analysis, and genuine passion for mixed martial arts have made him a fan favorite for years. But if you're a keen observer, you might have noticed something odd. Rogan rarely, if ever, commentates on UFC events outside of the United States anymore. So why is that? Let's dive in and find out. To understand why Joe Rogan no longer commentates on UFC events outside the US, we need to look back at his early years with the promotion. Rogan first joined the UFC as a backstage and post-fight interviewer in 1997. He eventually moved into the commentary booth, where he became a staple of UFC broadcasts, not just in the United States but around the world. During this period, Rogan did commentate on several international events, including those in Europe. So why did Rogan stop traveling for international events? The reasons boil down to a combination of personal preference, lifestyle, and the demands of his growing career outside of the UFC. Rogan has been very open about the toll that constant travel takes. The long flights, jet lag, and being away from home were simply no longer worth it to him, especially as his other ventures, like the Joe Rogan Experience podcast and his stand-up comedy career, began to take up more of his time and energy. These days, Rogan's schedule is packed. Between his podcast, which is one of the most popular in the world, his comedy shows, and other personal projects, he's got a lot on his plate. Traveling internationally for UFC events would require significant time away from these commitments, which is why he's chosen to focus on domestic events where travel is less demanding. Another factor to consider is the UFC's strategy for their commentary team. The UFC has a roster of talented commentators who are more than capable of covering international events. For instance, Michael Bisping, a former UFC champion and a UK native, often steps in for European events. Daniel Cormier and John Anik are also frequently part of the commentary team, providing a diverse and dynamic mix that doesn't rely solely on Rogan's presence. Joe Rogan has also addressed this topic directly on his podcast. He's openly stated that he's comfortable with the current arrangement, where he only works UFC events in the US. Rogan has been with the UFC since 1997, and at this point in his career, he's earned the ability to pick and choose which events he wants to work. His decision to avoid international events seems to be more about lifestyle and personal preference than anything else. So there you have it, the main reasons why Joe Rogan doesn't commentate on UFC events outside the United States. It's a mix of personal preference, logistical convenience, and the UFC's evolving strategy. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe.